They said the human heart could break only once. They lied. Lieutenant Aria Hale felt hers shatter every time she swiped her access badge and watched the red denial light flash with that cold, merciless beep. It was not just a rejection of clearance, it was a rejection of everything she had sacrificed, everything she had bled for, everything she believed she had earned through silent battles that nobody in those polished Pentagon corridors even knew existed. She stood there in her crisp Navy uniform, shoulders back, jaw set with discipline, but inside she trembled like a soldier alone in a dark battlefield, unseen and unheard. They had no idea who she was. They had no idea what she carried. And on that morning, the morning that changed everything, Aria realized that sometimes the world only respects a story once someone powerful decides to read it. Aria had never wanted glory. She grew up near the coastline of Maine, in a town where fog rolled in like a heavy blanket and fishermen's wives waited by the harbor for men who sometimes never came home. She learned early that strength wasn't loud, it was surviving the silence. Her father, a Navy mechanic, raised her like someone training a future warrior without ever saying the word. When she was 14, he was killed in a fire on board an aging carrier, and Aria remembered the funeral as a hollow space where people spoke gently but truthfully never expected the small, grieving girl to one day chase the same ocean that had stolen her father. But she did. She enlisted because she believed service meant meaning, and she trained harder than anyone because she believed effort could protect her from loss. But life rarely cooperates with those who try hardest. Her dream shifted after injuries cut her SEAL candidacy short during the most grueling phase, Hell Week. She survived the cold, the sleep deprivation, the drowning simulations, but not the injury that fractured her shin and ended her path. The instructors had respected her toughness, her peers had admired it silently. But rules were rules, and she was discharged from the pipeline. They called it a drop on medical release. She called it the day the ocean closed its door on her. Still, she didn't break. She changed direction, choosing technical intelligence instead, because if she couldn't fight in the water, she could still protect those who did. Years passed, and Aria became known for her ability to read encrypted signals and trace hidden patterns inside mission data, patterns that had saved countless lives but earned her little recognition. She didn't care about medals. She only cared about preventing the kind of late-night knock on the door her father never survived. Her entire life narrowed into a mission: understand threats before they struck, decode enemy networks before they spread, and give the SEALs, Marines, pilots, and sailors the upper hand every time. She worked in dimly lit rooms filled with glowing screens and maps, living in a world where success meant nothing happened, and failure meant everything did. But one morning, a coded transmission landed on her desk. At first, it looked like noise. A few irregular bursts of encrypted chatter that most analysts would have dismissed as local interference. Yet something in its structure, something subtle, instinctive, grabbed her attention. She spent hours unraveling the message, using a mix of training and instinct she didn't know she still possessed. Her fingers moved across the tablet as though she were back in the SEAL pipeline, fighting to stay ahead of time. When the final layer cracked, Aria felt the blood in her veins turn cold. The chatter wasn't noise. It was a pre-operational communication chain for a hostile infiltration group, one that had already infiltrated a U.S. naval facility overseas and was preparing an attack capable of wiping out an entire task group. The pattern was something only someone familiar with SEAL operational cadence would recognize. Only someone like her. She compiled the threat data urgently and requested immediate clearance to brief the Naval Command Board. She had no hesitation, lives were at stake, and the clock was already ticking. But the moment she arrived at the secure access hallway, the same security officer she saw every week gave her a rehearsed apology and told her she lacked the new clearance update. She explained that lives were at risk. They shrugged. She insisted this was time-sensitive. They only responded with the same words: "You don't have clearance." Her hands tightened around her tablet. She could feel the weight of every lost opportunity, every closed door, every moment her efforts had been overlooked. The numbers on the digital lock blurred through tears she refused to let fall. She pressed her badge again. Red light. Denied. The guards motioned for her to step aside. Her pulse hammered as she raised her tablet helplessly, as if the truth inside it could somehow push the door open by force of urgency alone. Then everything changed. A voice echoing through the hallway froze everyone. The Admiral, Marcus Rourke, commander of Naval Special Warfare, a man whose presence could silence a storm, was striding toward the secure wing with a cluster of officers. His eyes landed on Aria, and for a moment, she braced for reprimand, maybe even disciplinary action for attempting access she technically didn't hold at the moment. She stood at attention, heart racing, grief and frustration mingling inside her like a breaking wave. The Admiral asked her what was happening, and the guards explained she was insisting on entry without clearance. But Aria didn't speak. She simply lifted the tablet and held it out. The Admiral took it, intending only a cursory glance. But when his eyes scanned the decrypted patterns, the operational cadence hidden among the symbols, his composure shifted. He recognized the embedded structure. Not many could. It was the coding style of a SEAL, someone trained to hide operational data inside digital noise. And the Admiral knew instantly that this type of recognition didn't come from luck. It came from experience forged in hellish places. He asked her how she found it. She explained her analysis in steady, disciplined words, hiding the desperation she felt inside. The Admiral listened. He listened deeply. And then he ordered the security team to open the door immediately and instructed everyone inside the command board room that the next briefing would be coming from Lieutenant Aria Hale. Inside, the lights dimmed, maps illuminated, officers arranged themselves around the table, and Aria began her presentation. Her voice trembled at first, not from fear but from the weight of finally being heard after years of silence. She walked them through the layers of code, the hidden structure, the projected attack timeline, and the estimated casualty count if it went unnoticed. She explained the infiltration pattern she had recognized because she had once trained to think the same way. The room grew colder as the truth sank in. They realized the attack was not only imminent, it was already underway. The Admiral stood slowly, his jaw set with conviction. He ordered an immediate alert, rapid deployment, and activation of defensive countermeasures. Within minutes, helicopters roared to life, SEAL teams sprinted to gear stations, and signals raced across the globe. Aria watched from the command deck as the world shifted from routine operations to urgent action. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from the weight of knowing how close everything had come to being missed. As the mission unfolded in real time, tracked across satellite feeds and encrypted audio, Aria's analysis proved precise. The SEAL task force intercepted the infiltration team before detonation sequences could begin. The operation was brutal, fast, and surgically effective. When the final confirmation came through, the hostile cell neutralized with 0 U.S. casualties, the command room exhaled collectively. But Aria didn't celebrate. She stepped back from the screens, overwhelmed by a mix of pride, grief, and relief. For years she had felt like a ghost walking among ranks that didn't see her value. But in that moment, as the Admiral approached her with a look of respect she had never expected to earn, she understood something deeper than victory. Sometimes the world will overlook you entirely until the one moment when it can no longer afford to. The Admiral told the room that Aria Hale had prevented the loss of an entire task group and safeguarded national security in a way few ever could. The officers stood. Not because of protocol, but because respect sometimes speaks louder when not required. For the first time since losing her father, Aria felt like she had honored him not by following his footsteps, but by carving her own. She was granted advanced clearance, reassigned to Special Warfare Intelligence, and positioned as liaison for SEAL operational analysis. But none of the titles mattered. What mattered was knowing she had saved lives she would never meet, protected families who would never know her name, and proved to herself that resilience wasn't about being recognized, it was about showing up for the mission even when the mission didn't see you. Months later,